is going to come up and share with you about what he's doing to find a cure for Fanconi anemia. Dr. Robert Sclafani, he's a professor of biochemistry and molecular genetics, director of cell biology program in the CU Cancer Center at the CU School of Medicine. I'm going to read some more about him, but just know this is one smart guy. His degrees are pretty impressive. He's got his BA in biology from Columbia College in New York. He's got his PhD in genetics and molecular biology from Columbia University in New York and the University of Utah. And he's done postdoctoral studies in genetics at the University of Washington in Seattle. But they're doing studies on resveratrol for head and neck carcinogenesis in Fanconi anemia. I looked up carcinogenesis to figure out what that was. How many know what that is? Just, you know what it is? You know what it is? I'm impressed. I had to Google it. It's really the process by which normal cells are transformed into cancer cells. Kind of scary. Dr. Sclafani is going to give an update on the research that he's been doing and briefly explain what our funds will go to this year. Let's give a big round of applause for Dr. Sclafani.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me to speak. I also want to say, from the research viewpoint, we can't do it without you, okay? We need your support. It's the only way we can do the research. That's the way it works. I want to say, I'm going to talk a little bit, just a few minutes, about my own research and Dr. DeAndrea, who you'll be supporting in the next year. And so what Alan and I are both doing, actually, is trying to find novel compounds, small molecules, basically drugs or pharmaceuticals, that we can use essentially to help Fanconi anemia patients. Now, my laboratory is interested in using a natural compound, resveratrol, and we heard, I always say the romantic part is it comes from red wine because it's in the skin of grapes. There's also a lot in other foods, plants. The beauty of the compound is it's a non-toxic compound. You can feed as much as you want to an animal or a person. It doesn't hurt them in any way. But it can prevent cancer in many animal models. So what we'd like to do is, for Fanconi patients, we know that they're at high risk for cancers, especially leukemias and cancer I work on, which is oral cancer, head and neck cancer. And so we're trying to find out if we can use resveratrol to block, essentially, carcinogenesis, as we heard. That is, the progression to cancer in those patients. And of course, we're hoping that we can use that also in adult patients who get head and neck cancer. Usually these are smokers and drinkers. And Alan DeAndrea, I'll give great credit to Alan because he's the one that got me interested in the Fanconi research. We both participated in a course that we run out at Aspen every year for medical oncologists. And every year I'd listen to Alan and I'd say, this is so interesting. Why am I not doing this? And so he got me really involved. And what Alan is doing is he's trying to get at the anemia, as we heard, is a very, very serious problem, the bone marrow failure. And he's now screened over 6,000 different compounds to find a small number of compounds, about 10 compounds, which essentially are going to try to block the bone marrow failure by preventing the DNA damage. So what happens is there's DNA damage in those cells, and your own system in your body, your own surveillance mechanisms will get rid of cells with too much damage. In this case, that's bad because you're going to get rid of the cells you need in your bone marrow to make your red and white blood cells. So Alan is making good progress on there. You support his research, and hopefully we can come up with some cocktails, as we call them in the medical field, that can intercept this disease, because we know these patients, we know what they're going to get. And so why can't we prevent these things from occurring in the first place? So I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to ask them.